Hello, Spartans. My name is Caleb Lewis. I'm chair of the School of Business. I'm back again to share some personal finance tips with you as part of the Upskill U video series. I hope you watched my first video on building a good credit history. Some of those same ideas will show up here. Today, I've got some ideas to share with you about credit cards and responsible credit card use. One of the things I always really like to emphasize to students is that a credit card is a loan. It may not seem the same as a car loan, a student loan, or a mortgage, but it is a loan. These are funds that you are borrowing, and if you use a credit card for things you wouldn't use a loan for, like buying a cup of coffee, then maybe you should rethink how you're using that credit card. However, credit cards can be an extremely useful tool for building a credit history, for establishing a good credit record, and getting access to better terms on future car loans or mortgages. So we shouldn't avoid using credit cards in all cases, but we need discipline and we need to be careful in how we use those credit cards. First of all, I think it's important that you choose the right credit card. You are going to find a wide range of credit cards out there available. They are going to differ in terms of the interest rates that they offer, the fees that they charge, and the benefits that go along with that card. You should carefully consider all of those features as you choose a credit card. Now, your eligibility for the best credit cards, the lowest rates, the lowest fees, and the best benefits, is going to depend on that credit score and that credit history. Again, I hope that you'll watch my previous video in this series and get some tips for building out a good credit history. As mentioned in that video, I think it's important to keep in mind that it's not just your credit score, the number that you might have seen, that's important, but your credit report is a summary of your credit history. And it's really that credit history that contributes to your credit score and to the view by lenders of you as creditworthy. Now, what about those people who don't have that credit history? How can you get started? Well, this can be a real challenge. There are a couple of options for people who do not have an established credit history. You can, first of all, find someone who's willing to co-sign for a credit card in your name. Effectively, they are using their credit history to vouch for your credit worthiness. They take on risk when that happens, so that if you don't make your credit card payments, the lender can come after them. So it takes trust, but this is one way that someone might, with a good credit history, might help you begin to build your own credit history with a credit card. There are also secured credit cards where you, in fact, prepay and put money into the card in advance and then start spending on that credit card in a typical fashion. So in this way, you have effectively prepaid for your credit line. In this way, the bank is protected or the lender is protected so that if you don't make their payments, that money is already there. And in this way, you can get access to a credit card and use that to build a credit history without already having the credit history it takes to get the best terms. So these are a couple of ways in which you might get access to a credit card without a good or lengthy credit history. So what are credit cards? Well, one thing to keep in mind is that, again, a credit card is a loan. It is what we would consider a revolving or an open line of credit. This means that, unlike a car loan, you're not going to have to reapply every time you want that credit. It means that your payments are going to depend on how much of that credit that you use. So these are some important features to keep in mind. Your credit card is also going to come with an annual percentage rate, or APR. In fact, most credit cards come with a slate of different APRs under different circumstances. You might be enticed with a really fantastic introductory APR, 0% for the first 30 days. But what really is going to matter for you is that standard APR, the APR that will be charged to you going forward after that introductory period expires. There are other APRs you might see quoted as well. If you use your credit card to take out cash, a cash advance, there is often a different APR that applies there. To do balance checks and, or in the case of a penalty, in those cases you might get charged a different rate as well. One other important piece to keep in mind is that when using your credit card and receiving your statement, often the credit card will, always, in fact, the credit card company will provide you with a minimum payment due. This minimum payment, if you make it, will keep you current with the credit card. You will not be in arrears. You won't have missed your payments with the credit card, but you will still have a potentially significant remaining balance. If we don't pay off the entire balance in a month, then we're going to start incurring interest charges. So that minimum payment may again keep you current with the credit card, but that balance that sits there is going to start costing you money in terms of interest payments. And also, that minimum payment is not designed with some idea that you will pay off your balance in a quick fashion. And in fact, given that interest starts accruing if you don't pay off your balance in that month, you're going to find that actually your balance grows as that interest accrues, and that minimum payment is not going to be necessarily sufficient for you to pay off that balance in the time that you want. Of course, there are many benefits to credit cards, and while again we need discipline in credit card use, let's talk a little bit about some of these benefits. First of all, many credit cards come with substantial rewards programs. With these rewards programs, you might be eligible for airline miles or reduced ticket prices to certain events. So there are a wide range of rewards out there, including cash back and gift cards. So these kinds of things can be significant perks associated with a credit card. Of course, you can use that credit card to build your credit history. I talk a little bit about this in the previous video in this series, but by using your card regularly and paying off that balance every month, you can build out that length of your credit history, and that time is really important. Credit cards can also be a clever way of building out your credit history by using your credit card to get credit for purchases you are already making. Many of the things that you're paying for are not showing up on your credit history. Your cell phone bill, your utilities, potentially even your rent to your small landlord. These things reflect financial responsibility on your side, but are not necessarily showing up in your credit history. However, if you were to use your credit card to pay for those things and then pay off that credit card regularly and on time, then you can start effectively getting credit for the purchases you were already making and build out that credit history. So not only can you build a lengthy credit history with a credit card, you can also get credit for things in your credit history you otherwise would not by paying for them with that credit card. Personally, I think one of the most important features of a credit card is the fraud protection. At the end of the day, when you're using your credit card, you're using the lender's money. Now, it's a loan, you're on the hook for paying it back. But in the case of fraud or identity theft, where someone uses credit in your name, that credit is not your money. Compare this, for example, with a debit card. If someone were to get access to your debit card, the money that they're spending is coming out of your account and is now gone. But if someone steals your credit card information, or if you lose your credit card while traveling abroad, your liability is limited, and that depends on how quickly you report that card as lost or stolen, by the way. Your liability is limited, and if that person who uses your card goes off and buys a big screen TV, you're not going to be liable for those purchases. So the fraud protection features of credit cards can be extremely valuable, especially for those who might be traveling abroad, or for, like many of us, who are regularly making online purchases and putting our credit card information out there on the internet. Those fraud protection features are very beneficial. Now again, those benefits are really, really valuable, but we have to keep in mind that credit card debt is an important and risky endeavor. I used to work closely with someone who worked as a bankruptcy judge, and he would regularly see college-age individuals and recent graduates going up for bankruptcy. He told a story to me once of a student who signed up for a credit card because it came with a t-shirt while they were on spring break. They went on to use that credit card throughout spring break, and by the time they graduated college, they had to declare bankruptcy. So we need to be disciplined in how we use credit cards. To access all of those benefits from credit cards, you do need a credit card, you do need to be regularly using it, and you do need to stay current on your payments. So again, it's very possible to get a low interest and no fee or low fee credit card, depending on your credit history, and to use that credit card for normal payments on and normal purchases that you are already going to make. And as long as you pay off that balance every month, no interest will accrue. The only cost to you then of accessing those benefits of the credit card are going to be the fees. Sometimes there are annual fees or balance transfer fees. The fees that the credit card charges you will be your only additional expenses from using the credit card as opposed to, say, again, a debit card for your purchases. So I hope you found that these tools are useful in thinking about how you might wisely use a credit card. Again, these are powerful tools that can be used to build out your credit history. They're definitely beneficial in a time where you are in a crunch and you need access to a little bit of credit. But we must be disciplined in how we use these cards. They can be very destructive to our credit history as well. I'll share some additional resources that will be available to you after watching. Thank you for watching.